This is the first video in a series of 5, and I'm going to walk through as thoroughly as I possibly can what I call the 5-step process. This is hands down the most important 5-video playlist you're going to find on YouTube for veteran disability compensation. The 5 steps is how veterans ensure they are actually maximizing their earned benefits, meaning getting what you're owed. Now, the 5 steps goes like this. It's increases, that's this video. Then you have secondaries, denials, new claims, and finally, presumptive intera. And I wrote presumptive intera into the same category here. I'm going to have a video on all 5 of these topics. Now, below will be a link to those 5 videos. It'll be a playlist, but this is talking about increases. I'm going to show you step by step, click by click, literally, how to make sure you are properly rated for each disability. Here, I've already did, that's Google. I already did a one-on-one with the veteran, okay? I made it anonymous John Doe. You can see anonymous here. I'm obviously not going to release any personal identifiable information whatsoever, but I get very generic information. Hey, when did you serve? What deployments have they been on? And I don't really, the reason I'm looking at deployments, I'm looking for presumptive conditions. I don't care if they're hard chargered, you know, have Afghan, Iraq, Syria, or the Pacific, or they stayed stateside. I don't care about any of that. What I care about is, hey, do they rate the PACT Act? Or are they an atomic veteran? There are various presumptives for depending on where they were. And then I look at their intent to file. Okay, I don't hop on va.gov and do that for them. The veteran has to do all that stuff. But these are conversations that need to be had. And then dependents, why not? Okay, hey, if you have dependents, don't forget to submit for that claim as well. But then I finally begin the one-on-one with what they're service connected for. Obviously, the veteran gives me this information, redacted. I don't need social security numbers. They give me everything they're rated for and the rating. And I total all this up and give them, hey, you're at 87% rounded to 90. Okay, that's great. PFB is pseudo barbe. I forgot what the F stands for. It's a really big word. I'm going to show you this one last. There's a reason for that because that's a general rating formula that's not as common as mental health, okay? I'm going to show you this one last. But let's say I'm started with bilateral pes planus. Now, I'll tell you right now, I know the rating criteria, ratings, and the symptoms for each of these, and it's memorized. I'm going to assume you have not memorized all of these or all of your service-connected disabilities. So what do? Okay, bilateral pes planus. Pes planus is not going to be in 38 CFR. You're not going to see that word. It's going to be flat feet. So if you didn't know what pes planus was, you could just look up pes planus and you can say, oh, it's flat feet. Got it. All right, let's go back here. Now let's look at flat feet, 38 CFR, ECFR. It's going to bring you to this here. You can scroll and look for flat feet. That's going to take way too long. I'm going to hit Control F. So I'm finding the word flat. Boom, it brought me right here. Now, before I go into the symptoms and the rating criteria and how I know if the veteran's properly rated, I want to show you something that's extremely important, all right? The diagnostic code is 5276. For something like bilateral pes planus, it's probably going to be rated under flat feet versus other. There's the other miscellaneous rating code there. In a perfect world, I would really want to have the veteran's diagnostic code. So that way I don't have to guess if they're rated under that criteria or not. Now, I know they were because I had the conversation with them. But let's just say you had, best case scenario is a diagnostic code. How do you get that? You use VA's API. I'm not going to show you how to do that. I'm going to link a video below to do that. But I want to show you, if you had the best information possible, what that would look like. So you know it's 5276 because you've done your research. You just type in 38C FR, ECFR. This can be replaced with anything. And I'm not sharing my screen. There we go. That can be replaced with anything. You can put pes planus, flat foot. I prefer the diagnostic codes. There you go. And you're going to type in, you're going to click the ECFR link. Again, Control F, 5276, and boom, it brings you to the same place. Now, if you're wondering why I showed you the diagnostic code, you're going to find out why when we get to pseudo-Barbe. Okay, so there's times where you really want the diagnostic code. That's going to be one of them. Okay. Now for flat feet, this veteran, again, keep in mind, they're rated 30% for bilateral pes planus. At least that's what they told me. Okay. So I go to the rating criteria and I look at 30% for here. So 30% for unilateral, that is the most severe symptoms. Oh my goodness, I'm not sharing my screen. Let me do that again. I see two 30% here. One 30% is for unilateral with the most severe symptoms per 38 CFR. The other 30% is for bilateral at severe. So I know this veteran has these symptoms right here. Let me zoom in one more time so we can all see the same thing. I want to make sure we're all looking at the same thing. Here we go. Severe. So I would say, hey, veteran, this is how the VA rated you. I would read it to them. Does that sound appropriate? They say yay or nay. And then no matter what they say, I would say, okay, what about pronounced marked pronation? You know, have you spoken to your healthcare team? Not the CMP examiner. I don't care. At this point, CMP examiner is old news. Talk to me about current evidence. VA primary care, VA referred care, private primary care, or private referred care. And I'm going to say community care just in case you don't understand that community care is VA care. So what is your current symptoms? And if they say, hey, I think this is me and I complain about this, I know immediately, you know what? The recommendation here, when I get to recommendations at the bottom, the recommendation here is going to be increased based on current medical evidence through VA healthcare team. Now that part I made up, okay? It could be private, it could be whatever, but I would put the increase and then I would base it on the reasoning I'm recommending the increase. Now, let's say the veteran says, hey, I have these symptoms, or let me rephrase that. The veteran says, that does sound like me. I think I have these symptoms. Then my recommendation changes to increase if veteran visits primary care, you know, VA private, and well, I guess I can't spell visits or care, VA and private, and documents 50% bilateral flat feet symptoms. And then if you really want to go the extra mile just to have everything in one little spot, you could absolutely just kind of do that here, right? So boom, that way everything is in one little spot. And that's how I would structure this one-on-one if you wanted to do that for yourself. You know, you could even make a little indent here. Let's tab it out. You can even do a little tab. And I'm still not sharing my screen. I got to stop doing that. That's getting bad. So increase if veteran visits primary care, VA private, and documents 50% bilateral flat feet symptoms. I'm copying and pasting the criteria right out of 38 CFR because a veteran can have everything in one little spot co-located. Now, I'm not going to do this for all of these, but just so you know, if you wanted to really go soup to nuts, that would be the best thing to do. Okay, so there's that. I'm also not going to look at the diagnostic codes for all of these. I just wanted to show you how to do it at least once. So now let's go to Insomnia. All right, let's go back to the Googles. I want to start fresh here to show you can put anything in front of 38 CFR, ECFR. any condition you want. Boom. Now, we know that's not the right one. Excuse me. We know that that is for mental health. Insomnia, sometimes you have to play with it a little bit. See, that's why it's important to have the diagnostic code. So that way you don't have to do what I just did. Now, if you look at insomnia, you're not going to find it here. We know insomnia, that's weird. We know insomnia is rated under the general rating formula for mental disorders when it is direct, when it is secondary. This is as of January 2024. When insomnia is secondary, it's roped in with whatever it's primary to. So if your 40% back pain claim is causing you to have insomnia, insomnia is roped under your 40%, meaning it's useless. Still claim it because insomnia, treat it like an intermediate step at that point. Insomnia is likely going to stem into anxiety or other conditions. Now, this veteran is rated for insomnia at 30%. If we had the diagnostic code, we would know it's under the general rating formula here. So they are at 30%. Okay, let's go to 30. I would say, hey, veteran, this is how the VA rated you. Okay, let's look at 50%. What does that look like? Now, mental health is its own beast. And for the giggles of it, I'm going to link another mental health video going into all these symptoms because this is a lot. And this is where the one-on-one really has the conversations to say, hey, are we going to submit an increase for insomnia and or a new claim for anxiety, depression, whatever comes out through conversation between myself and the veteran. But of course, you can do this for yourself. Now, looking back in time, let's see, did I recommend? I did recommend, okay? So you can see through recommendations here, this was a one-on-one that happened, I don't know, a long time ago. The veteran, it seems like, complained about irritability, medication, fatigue, socially distant, currently unemployed. That's a huge one there. And so, yeah, based on that, and these are just notes, there's probably a lot more. Based on that, I went ahead and recommended the veteran do the increase for insomnia, right, which is under that mental health umbrella. I'm curious if this was pre-insomnia change in January of 24. Anyways, that's besides the point. Okay, what's next? So there we go. We got insomnia, increase if, right, because we talked about symptoms. And then again, you could copy paste this if you wanted to. I'm totally not because it's going to make this a little bit busy, right? But I'm going to put ... just so we know. Now, I know tinnitus is maxed out at 10. A lot of veterans should know that. Just in case, I'm going to show you anyways. If you're going to ask about tinnitus changes, no, they haven't changed yet. No update has come out in quite a while, at least as I'm recording this. So tinnitus, all right, you're going to see tinnitus throughout this thing. There's Meniere's. We're looking for the diagnostic code. If you're curious as what the tinnitus changes are, it's removing 6260, right? But boom, it's maxed out at 10. You can read these notes just to make sure the veteran is properly rated for this, but it could be combined with any of these other ratings. That's hearing loss. One of these is like dizziness or peripheral vestibular disorders. You know what? 6200. Let's just go ahead and check out what those are. Yeah. So whatever the heck that is. And then let's go back to the tinnitus. What was the other code? Just so we can see. And so if the veteran has any 6204, peripheral, yeah, there it is, the dizziness, okay? So you could have that conversation with yourself there to make sure you're properly rated, but that's probably maxed. Criteria could be hearing loss, whatever that second condition was that I couldn't pronounce. And then I'm going to put dizziness for short, but it's peripheral vestibular disorders. Same thing with the right wrist. Going through the numbers here. Google, you're not going to put right wrist, okay? Wrist, 38 CFR, ECFR. Now the wrist is weird, all right? There's wrist replacements. If you had a replacement, it's pretty straightforward, actually. And look at that minimum rating of a 20, which is very solid for a wrist, by the way. And then you have major, minor, basically right arm, left arm. I'm right-handed, right? So if I had a right wrist replacement with these symptoms, it would be 40. If I had the same symptoms in my left wrist, it would be 30. But minimum rating will be 20. And then you have following 1 year. And it's really going to be 4 months, actually, at least until they reevaluate that. Okay, but that's wrist replacement. So assuming this veteran here, John Doe, does not have a replacement, and that would come out through conversation, okay, and they would know if they had a replacement. Excuse me. We see the wrist here. So ankylosis, that's the loss of use. We're looking at SMC criteria here, okay? This is very rare, very rare. Most veterans are going to fall into 5215, which again, if you had the diagnostic code, 5215, you wouldn't have to guess that this is how they're rated, because they very well could be rated under 5214. Let's say it was 20. Okay, let's say this rating was 20. Now you would have to say, okay, is it ankylosis? Did they have a replacement? What if they don't know? Maybe they have TBI, they suffer from memory issues, although you would know if you had a replacement or not. You get the point. Having the diagnostic code makes everything easier. Now I can say, hey, that's how you're rated. 10% is a good rating for the wrist. We're probably not going to look at that. You're definitely going to want the diagnostic code here for right wrist carpal tunnel. I'm gonna go a little bit faster here because I want to get to PFP. If you've stayed this long till the video, wait until PFB is finished here because I want to show you something very quick. So let's just go through migraines. Okay, migraines, 38 CFR, ECFR. I'll do this quickly here. I'm hitting Control F. I'm looking at migraine. I know it's 8100. If you had the diagnostic code, you wouldn't have to guess. And here's the criteria. So they are rated at 0. And I'll tell you right now, almost every time I see a 0, almost every, because it depends on this veteran's symptoms, we submit evidence-based claims, even if it's an increase. Even if it's an increase, we still submit evidence-based claims, meaning the veteran talks to their primary care, VA or private, has documented symptoms, and now submits the claim with that evidence. But I would obviously look at prostrating. I would describe that, and I would talk about their treatment plan. You know, if they're just targeting the onset of headaches with Tylenol, I'm no doctor, but I can tell you from a claim perspective, that's a little shaky when it comes to VA ratings for migraines above 0%. If you truly have prostrating migraines, I wish I had all my medicines upstairs. Let me show you what 50% looks like. Gammacore, okay? I use Gammacore. It's a non-invasive nerve stimulator. Yeah, non-invasive vagus nerve stimulator. You put it right here. I use it 2 times in the morning, 2 times in the evening. I try my best to stay up with that, but it's very routine. This is preventative, non-invasive. I also take medication, amitriptyline, every single night for preventative. It helps with some mood, some anxiety stuff there. So it's, one pill, one stone, many birds, if you will. But that's preventative, okay? Then on the onset of migraines, I take rizatriptan. I used to take sumatriptan. It knocks me out. Rizatriptan still knocks me out. There's really no change there, but that's what I do. And so if you have prostrating attacks, trust me, you're not getting by with one Tylenol a day. All right. You're going to have some medication. Medication is hard medical evidence. That's how you look at your evidence-based increase. Okay. So I would just talk to the veteran, look at their treatment plan or lack of, and then recommend, if they don't have one, to get on a treatment plan. Boom. We know to submit migraines. Let's see what happened here. So it looks like the veteran did have evidence. I did this a while ago. I recommended a personal statement outlining the frequency of migraines when you take your medication. This part is key. A migraine log means diddly squat. Okay, it's self-report. No one cares. I know YouTube will tell you migraine logs matter. They don't. Now, medication, you get 15 pills per 3 months. You refill your prescription every 3 months. 15 migraines per month, averages to about 5. That's hard medical evidence that can't be disputed. Hard medical evidence can't be disputed. Self-report. Okay. And you can see I talked about refilling their medication. So obviously this veteran here was on medication. Current complaints to primary care, they've continued to that. And then if it's 0%, to do a high-level review with an informal conference. Be prepared to talk about your evidence, which is outlined in a personal statement. The reason is because the personal reason why I think 0% is common is because the DBQ from a CMP examiner is a little ambiguous. And then how the VA system works, the CMP examiner's DBQ essentially spits out a rating to the VSR, the RVSR. And then they likely award what they see, so that way they don't have to do extra work. That's my personal opinion. So HLR, easy peasy, lemon squeezy there. Anyways, that's migraines. I know I said I would do that quickly, but I wouldn't. But I didn't, excuse me. Let's look at rhinitis. This one absolutely matters for having the diagnostic code instead of just saying rhinitis. I will show you why. So you have rhinitis there, you have bacterial, and you have whatever that G word is. Now this veteran here is rated at 0, so we don't know which one it is. Now I know which one it is because I'm talking to the veteran about their symptoms. Hands down, this is I've only seen this once, at least from a veteran I've done a one-on-one with. I've never seen that one. Looking at the rating criteria though, I don't know what this is, but I know it sucks because anything with this number right here by itself is really bad. But this veteran here is 6522. So if I knew it was 6522, I wouldn't have to guess, right? Because if I'm asking the veteran, they could also give me unintentional false information. Like you don't know what you don't know. But I know it's allergic rhinitis. They have 0%. We're probably doing an increase here. And look, without polyps, but with greater than 50%, 10 right there, on both sides or complete obstruction on one side. If you complain to your doctor about your allergies and you get nasal spray, boom, that right there is hard medical evidence, if you will, for that evidence-based increase. And then obviously with polyps, which is not, you would think that this is common. It's not actually. The most common ratings for rhinitis are 0 and 10%. This, I wouldn't say it's rare, 30%, but it's definitely uncommon. If a veteran has polyps with their rhinitis, this right here is a very solid respiratory rating. What I mean by that is it's good for VA disability, not necessarily for your health, right? And so, of course, I would do my statements here. You can copy paste, do whatever it is you want to do to make sure that you, the veteran, have everything in one place, right? For right wrist, because we mentioned it was capped at 10%, probably Actually, you know what? I would say do not recommend an increase here. This is just increases. Remember, there's secondaries, increases, secondaries, denials, new claims, presumptive and terra. So this list here, recommendations, can get pretty wonky. All right. And look, I even added a speak to primary care about flat feet, speak to primary care about migraine. So as we talked about it, I went ahead and said, hey, don't forget, evidence is key. Now, finally, with pseudo-Barbe, first, this one's weird, okay, because I can't spell pseudo-Barbe. So what I'm going to do is just look up PFB skin. I just want to, okay, there we go. Pseudofolliculitis Barbe. I'm going to copy this because I don't want to spell it. All right. I'm sorry. Or I should say I don't want to try to spell it here on the YouTubes. I'm going to type it in. Now, remember, 30 CFR, ECFR. Now, this one matters because now if I do Control F and I look up pseudo-Barbe, it's not there. Okay. Let's hammer it down to just pseudo. It's not there. What if I look up PFB? It's not there. So you can definitely find yourself looking for pseudo here and you're not going to find it. This is a case. Now I know how it's rated. I'll show you how to find that out here in a second. This is the case where you really want that diagnostic code. Okay. What is that diagnostic code? Use VA API to get it. The veteran needs to do that. To be clear, I do not use VA's API on any other veteran but myself because you have to be logged into va.gov to do that. So clearly there would be a transfer of some serious PII there and HIPAA stuff that I don't do at all. But I would have the veteran look that up. Now, I know how pseudo-Barbe is rated, but let's say you didn't. How does the VA, or actually, let's do this. What diagnostic code is pseudo-Barbe by the VA? And you're going to see some lawyers, so that's the VAs, but you'll see lawyers, 7806. I mean, you'll find it pretty easily, okay? But I know it's 7806. Okay, let's go back to the Googles. I want to do it fresh. 7806, 38 CFR, ECF. Why is that caps? ECFR, ratings of the skin. So we're back at the skin, but now we're looking at 7806, which is the general rating formula for the skin. So sometimes there are many conditions like pseudo. Insomnia was one of them, and that gets a little tricky with the change in January of 24. There are many others. GERD and IBS used to be like that, but now they have their own diagnostic codes. But if you're rated for GERD and IBS and you don't know if it's rated together or separate, the diagnostic code is going to tell you that, okay? Because GERD and IBS now have separate they have their own diagnostic codes, and they're also separate diagnostic codes. So here you go. General rating formula for the skin. This veteran is at 60%. What does that mean? It means we're not recommending an increase. Not at all, okay? Do not recommend increase. And that's increases, okay? Now, if you really wanted to be hardcore about it, you could even do this, increase, and let's just say you copy-pasted everything in this part, like what we copy-pasted here for planus. Let's say you did it for everything, okay? You could, if you wanted to, do the 5 steps like this, just to make sure that you went through the entire 5-step process. Next here is secondary. In the next video in the series, if you made it to the end, thank you very much. I appreciate it. 5-video series. I'm going to be as thorough as I possibly can. I'll probably use this person for all of them just to show you a full one-on-one. But you could do the secondary here, and everything you did for increases, you would do for secondaries. I'm not going to cover that because this video is easily going to be 2 hours long. But that is how veterans understand if they are properly rated for conditions that are already service connected. Okay. If you don't get anything out of this, there's two things I want you to remember. Google 38 CFR. That's your best friend. I'm going to show you another resource. Let's say you don't like 38 CFR is a government website, and it's not the best. This is Veterans Benefits Knowledge Base. Master condition list here. You can see this is A through Z. Let me zoom in. It's A through Z. Click that, and let's talk about Control F. Pseudo. Okay. Let's say you just didn't know the general rating formula. This is going to have common names for things. You click on this, and what do you know? Bam. It's going to tell you exactly how that's rated. You just click on general rating formula, and here you go. All right. That's increases. That was the one thing I wanted you to know. Oh, the second thing is when it comes to increases, service connection is the hardest part of the entire process. Once that's done, the Nexus is gone. That ship has sailed. You are good to go. At 10 years, the service connection is protected, but service connection rarely, except for fraud, service connection rarely goes away. Okay, I've actually never seen it, to be honest with you. Once service connection is established, you are good. That's the foundation. All you need now is documented symptoms. Do not rely on the C&P examiner to document your symptoms, because if you do, that becomes the gospel, so to speak, in the VBA, the truth. Where if you have documented symptoms and for some reason you get a really bad C&P examiner, and that's me being nice, okay? There's a lot of bad words I want to use right now. So you get a really bad C&P examiner, but you have documented symptoms, you can combat that. And that's what the HLR is for, and you will win. The issue is when the veteran doesn't have medical evidence, they don't have documented symptoms, then the C&P examiner's DBQ becomes the end-all, be-all evidence for that claim. It is better to do an intent to file, wait 2 months for 2-3 months for your VA appointment if you're using VA. Or private's going to be much faster, by the way. Private's the way to go, in my opinion, for VBA stuff, VA claims. It is much better to do an intent to file, wait, gather the evidence, and then submit the claim. Do not submit claims that are not backed by evidence. You're going to be denied. Anyways, that's all I got. Thank you very much. This was a very long video. This is video 1 in a 5-part series. I would like to challenge you to watch all of them, start to finish, all the way through. I'm telling you, this is... Veterans always ask questions on how to get properly rated. This 5-video playlist, and I might add to it. It might be more. But this minimum 5-video playlist is the answer to that question. I mean that literally. Okay? Anyways, thank you very much. I do this full time. Okay? This is how I pay the bills through YouTube. So if you made it to the end, I greatly appreciate you. My wife appreciates you. My kids, I have 4 of them. They definitely appreciate you. And I hope this video helps. All right? Thank you very much. I'm going to go now, for real.